How much time? 30? 30 seconds? I'm on right now. I don't believe you.
Run.
What?
Alright people, or is it person? I hope it's people. Whoever's out there, this is the Brews at 10 on my left eye. I'm your host Lefty. Welcome to the stream everybody. Solidarity. How are you brewing as we kick off the week? Let us know in the chats. And as you join us on the stream, please do make sure you hit thumbs up. I can't guarantee that there won't be any fireworks going off in the proximity where the broadcast is, but this is Manchester, so we'll see. Always start a little early around here where fireworks are concerned, unfortunately. Can't say I'm a fan. Genie Bottle, great to see you. And if you're watching and you're not subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button, that way you can join others in the chat just 60 seconds later. Other ways that you can help the stream out, give us a share around your social media, whether it's this stream or some recent content. Thanks for your recent comments on the latest videos as well. Do appreciate all the feedback. Aaron, you've got an antisocial behaviour order. Breach court injunction against you served today, and the case is tomorrow at 10:30 AM. Well, there's actually a road that leads out of Manchester and through Salford and whatnot. It's actually known as the East. Well, it is the East Lancashire Road. It's the A580. That's known as the ASBO. Don't know if anybody knew that, but best of luck, Aaron. Hope you weren't being too antisocial. Won't ask for the details if you don't want to give. But so that was just served today, was it? And you're in tomorrow at 10:30. That's short notice, pretty short notice. Still a few others joining, but I will first and foremost give you the latest members list. Massive thank you to everybody on this roster that you can see here. It's just 99 pence if you want to join. People, that's just a fraction of the price of a tasty hot beverage of your choice. Lots of perks to enjoy as well. And thanks to some generous gifted donations recently, we're currently on 116, on the way to the current target of 250. We can get there, people. In fact, we're almost halfway. Super chats are also open, as well as super thanks for anybody who's watching back later on, and there's a buy me a coffee page if you want to check that out. The description is in the try that one again. The link is in the description of the stream or any other content on the channel. Thank you very much. That was almost a legitimate sentence. So what's coming up on the stream, people? Well, got one or two I told you so's prediction I made just yesterday. Soon coming to fruition. Where the right wing are concerned, we'll be taking a look at that. But speaking of the right wing, apparently the Tory party might be going bankrupt or close to bankruptcy. A few other bits of UK news. The main bulk of the stream, though, will be a video from just yesterday, not an exclusive My Left Eye video. It's from down in Peckham in London. And it's a lengthy speech by Corbyn at one of the Your Party events, so for anybody who's interested in finding out a little bit more about what Your Party are all about. And we've had a few clips here and there, and we had the statement yesterday, but this one goes into it in a bit more detail. Also an interesting word London's concerned. Another interesting poll that's fresh off the press. Plus a story that we didn't really have time to get into yesterday. Quite a lengthy Sunday live stream yesterday, almost 2.5 hours, but I'll be catching up on something I meant to get into yesterday's stream, plus the latest from Gaza as well. And who knows what else? Who knows where the conversation may lead? Suffice to say that the chat can sometimes get a bit random. So I hope that sounds sufficient enough to keep you with us for a while on the Brews at 10 this evening. We'll kick off very shortly.
Can you dig it?
Spoiler alert in the chats. Yes, Mo, I was going to... oh dear. I was going to disclose that recent info before the Corbyn segment. So I guess I can just tick that one off. Good to see you, Mo. Yes, I will be playing the statements. Not the one from yesterday, not the... It was referred to as a brief. It's a different announcement that was made at a meeting yesterday, so this is very recent. Even more recent than the so-called briefing statements. Yes, Mo, I can dig that. Well, I guess if it's a spoiler, it's a spoiler. We may as well celebrate it. I think that's for a party that doesn't have a manifesto, hasn't had its first conference, or has even settled on a name yet. 50,000 is somewhat impressive. A long way to go till the next scheduled general election. Emphasis on the word scheduled, of course. Wouldn't be unlike this country to not wait the full 5 years. In fact, at one point we had 3 and 4 years. What times? What times do exist? Well, now we can finally start. Now, Floor Snake's here. We've all been waiting. It's Brews at 10, not Brews at 12 minutes past 10. Floor Snake, just to politely remind you. No, I'm only joking. Your router had a wobble and your YouTube app decided to follow suit, but your mate Nigel down the pub says, don't worry, just blame the immigrants who sipped his Chardonnay. Oh, it's that Nigel, is it? The dual passported, coots banking, stock market trading, grifting Nigel. What is this prick doing on my TV again? Farage. What's that? English is a second language to your children and you don't like migrants? What's wrong with you? Well, we just don't like them, do we? Anyway, well, that's sort of segued into the opening article, actually. As I said, we did call it yesterday on the Sunday live stream. So a couple of told you so's, very quick I told you so's as well, coming up after the opening comedy clip of that ilk that you just described there, Floor Snake. Has everybody hit thumbs up? Come on, people, double check. Got stats here. I'm going to start pointing fingers. Okay, we'll kick off with Rathbone, who hasn't been on for a bit, actually. Really good channel. I will post a link to the channel in the description when the stream endeth. So check this one out. It's only a short one. He actually had to construct a whole new channel. This guy goes really heavy on Zionists. So it's believed that was the reason that they removed his old channel. But do show your support for his new one. This is comedy, obviously, but he is a very good social and political commentator as well, I should just say. Just to point out. He's not a one-trick comedy pony, he does actually know his stuff. So that's Rathbone, Rathbone. See what's happening.
Oh my god!
What?
40 beheaded babies in a blanket.
Seriously?
Apparently.
But not actually.
Ostensibly.
But not really?
Purportedly.
Jesus Christ, did it happen or not?
Allegedly.
Oh my god.
It would happen.
How?
If we let them.
But it didn't happen.
But it could have.
How?
If we let them.
Oh my god.
What?
You're lying.
We gotta get the goddamn nukes out of Iran.
What?
We gotta get the goddamn nukes out of Iran.
Seriously?
Purportedly.
But not actually.
Ostensibly.
But not really.
Apparently.
Holy fuck, do they have nukes or not?
As a matter of circumstance, yes. Allegedly.
Oh my god.
What?
You're lying.
Short but sweet there from Rathbone. Check it out. At Rathbone. Figuratively. Ostensibly. Allegedly. Yeah. Right, where to first? We're into the I told you so's. So surrounding this awful incident on Saturday evening, the multiple stabbing incident on a train, I did point out that this is something that I thought the right wing were going to try and jump all over with the anti-migrant rhetoric, try and associate it to this, despite the fact that the alleged perpetrator, the only person who's been arrested, is British, but they are black. So they're still going to scrape the barrel and try and make false associations. And it's happened already. And Chris Philip, who I believe is the Shadow Home Secretary, who the fuck keeps up with the Shadow Cabinet anymore, certainly not me so closely. But yeah, Chris Philip has already done this in Parliament, in the House of Commons no less. And it took a member of the Liberal Democrats, of all parties, to actually try and make a point of order there. And got a bit of a clip. But it's not just Chris Philip. I've got another example. Again, based in London, but this time it's, ridiculous. It's just the Tories trying to... It's not working, but they're trying to woo people back to the party from reform with this, so let's see what's happening with Chris Philip first. Soon to be in the Where Are They Now files or whatever.
Mr. Speaker, this all comes just weeks after a murderous Islamist terror attack on a Manchester synagogue, and just days after the horrendous murder of Wayne Broadhurst by an Afghan asylum seeker, both using...
First of all, that's a bit close to home. The association trying to say that this is the same as the synagogue attack. The police were very clear that this isn't any kind of terror incident, or they've not said anything about the motivations behind this whatsoever. I think it's abhorrent straight off the bat. Where Manchester's concerned, you better watch your lip here, fella.
Knives. Does she agree we need to ensure more people who carry knives especially where they use them to threaten others, are jailed. I know, of course, there are pressure on prison places, but by deporting more of the 10,000 foreign nationals in prison, we could create more space.
After this sort of incident, Madam Deputy Speaker, it is vital the police are given the time and space they need to establish the full facts. That is ever more difficult due to the rapid spread of disinformation online in the immediate aftermath of these sort of attacks. Within hours, social media was flooded with speculation over the ethnicity and race of the perpetrator.
Yeah, one thing I noticed when the official police statement was made, the emphasis, and they were like, oh, by the way, this is a British national. I think they said it at least 3 times, because obviously the far right go off on one on social media, don't they? With lies, with hyperbole, with propaganda, and the next thing you know, a bunch of knuckleheads are outside a hotel in Epping, which they actually were on Sunday. Apparently there was another sort of far right, I won't say major rally. I don't know how many showed up, but that's what happens. Don't give them an inch, don't give them any excuse whatsoever.
Inciting racist and Islamophobic comments. And when communities were still reeling from the horror of this attack, certain political figures on the hard right, including members of the Reform Party, were already seeking to exploit the incident for political gain. Desperate to involve themselves in the tragedy, they reached for their dog whistles. They threw around baseless opinions on levels of crime when facts were available. They were shamelessly trying to turn tragedy into yet another excuse to whip up fear and sow division. The Shadow Home Secretary's comments today also veered into that realm. Never is an opportunity to blame foreigners missed. That is beneath contempt. At moments like
You see him trying to get him to withdraw it. Look at his face. What a cretin. He knows what he's doing. He knows the rhetoric that he's going for.
that is beneath contempt. At moments like this.
I know the subtitles just described it as chuntering. Whilst you're chuntering from a sedentary position. Tory wanker. Look at it. Look at the state of that face.
At moments like this, those who aspire to leadership must calm fears and attempt to unite, not inflame tensions.
That clip was from Best for Britain. They're not a right-wing page, don't worry. No sources like that. But it's not just, I mean, wasn't that awful? Wasn't that awful? You know, obviously, Lib Dems I put in the same camp as the Tories and Labour, quite rightly, but it was on that occasion quite correct for the Lib Dem MP to point that out. Quite pathetic from the Tories, but it's not just Chris Philip who's at it. Let's take a look at another example. This time concerning the entrance to Whitechapel Station, Whitechapel Tube Station in London. I don't know if you saw this one today, people. Let me just bring up that article from this one's from Huffington Post. It really is embarrassing. If you thought the Chris Philip one was bad, it does get unfortunately worse. Let's take a look. Senior Tory accused of spreading misinformation over underground sign. Just before I start to scroll down. So often when debating people on the right or similar circumstances, something happens, you find a pattern, and on many occasions I've identified that whoever it is that you're debating or whatever is either dumb or they're playing dumb. They're pretending to be stupid in a, you know, as though that's somehow going to help them win the argument. But where playing dumb is concerned, this just goes above and beyond that. I don't even know how to describe it. It's beyond dumb. It's beyond playing dumb. Taking people for fools, however you want to phrase it. And bearing in mind, this is not exactly a remote location in a low population area. For example, we're talking about Whitechapel tube station in the capital city. Whitechapel, of course, being a famous tourist destination spot for the Jack the Ripper murder tours, the Whitechapel murder tours, however you'd refer to them. Of course, one of the most notorious serial killers from history. So a lot of people coming through that station, and it's not as though this unbelievably poor effort wouldn't quickly be revealed or debunked. And in this case, it just took a matter of minutes. So let's see what's happening. I'll scroll down and reveal for anybody who isn't familiar with the story or Whitechapel itself. If you're a Whitechapel resident, I know that we do have a few regular London residents in the chat. So Susan Hall, you can see there, that picture was taken at an anti-ultra-low emission zone protest in Trafalgar Square recently. She loves Londoners choking on car fumes, that's for sure. What a saint. But this time around, she's been accused of, she has been, spreading misinformation after she posted a picture on Twitter showing an underground sign in Bengali. I'm just waiting for the pictures to load, that'll be handy. Well, this is the tweet. She said, "This is England, we speak English. Those that don't and live here must learn the language and, dare I say, integrate." So it's there in Bengali. However, if you're familiar with the station, it's a double entrance at Whitechapel Station. So that's the entrance on the right, and just literally to the left. Whoever took this picture couldn't have missed it. Let's be certain. Did she take this picture herself? Oh, sorry, she's retweeted something from Alistair Hilton. It might be another fellow idiot. And then there you see, literally just the other side of the pillar, the other entrance on the left, and above it in English, Whitechapel Station. Clear as day. Clear as day. And if you go abroad as a tourist, you'll find many other signs in whichever city it might be, also in English, as well as the main language of the country that you're in. And a lot of them have Spanish these days, as Spanish is one of the most spoken languages in the world as well. So, I mean, come on, to try and con people into thinking, oh, the entire station's been taken over by Bengalis, and they want people to believe that London is minority white, and that, you know, it's the ever-present story, isn't it? The ever-threatened white male in the UK. So quite a few people cottoned onto this. I didn't check out the original post itself for any of the replies, but lame. That is so lame. So that's Susan Hall, who was a former mayoral candidate, of course. They didn't get her in. So she'll be the sort that also touts the idea that people want London to take on Sharia law, all that usual bollocks, fake statistics, you know, the way that they try and play at people. Don't fall for it, it's a load of BS. Speaking of Tories, something that's actually a bit more positive, bit of good news where the Tories are concerned. It's not too often that you get to say that. But they could be on the verge of bankruptcy. Hooray! Let's see what's happening. According to a recent interview with Kemi Bad Enoch, who's just passed her first year as leader of the Conservative Party. The idea was to last us 1 year as leader of the Conservative Party by literally not announcing any policies. Almost unfathomable, you know, to be a fly on the wall in that meeting. It's policies that got us, that lost us all of these seats at the last general election. Therefore, logically, if we don't have policies, you see what I'm thinking, people? So that's the way that she played it, and she's lasted a year. But she's revealed that they almost ran out of money, the Conservative Party, after the absolute walloping that they took at the last GE. So let's take a look just very quickly through this. Almost, but not quite enough. Well, let's hope they continue on that path. It's almost what will happen first. Will they just literally run out of seats, or will they go bankrupt? So 250 seats they lost at the last election. A lot of financial backers obviously left. These are people who have small numbers of private backers as opposed to large numbers of public ones. Of course, the likes of Lord Sainsbury and whatnot. Plus a few shady Russian characters you might expect. But she said there was a definite risk that they could have gone bankrupt. She won't say how near they came to running out of money, but admitted there was a problem. There was a moment when donors could have walked away. So that's a shame. And they kept that one quiet. Just quickly skim through this. She was also dismissive of talk of rivals plotting against her. Several senior figures, including former leadership rival Robert Jenrick and rising star Katie Lamb, nutters both, have attracted headlines with interventions on issues such as banning the burqa and deporting migrants. Yada yada yada. Change the pissing record, will you? It's like I don't go into a voting booth thinking about burqas or whether women can have a cock or not. You know, there's other societal issues that are more paramount than that. Or immigration, for that matter. So so if you'd like to contribute to bankrupting the Conservative Party, please send £0 to the Conservative Party. You can find the address for Zero donations on their website. If you want that on your algorithm, I suggest you might use incognito mode. Keep those zeros pouring in, and before you know it, the party will be bankrupt. Let's turn this stream perhaps into a zero telethon, the first in history. We're still at zero. This is great news. This is great news. We're going to go over to some washed up comedian from the early noughties who's going to try and redo his sketches in a more modern setting. But news has just come down to us a few moments before we started broadcasting. They're actually half cut, so we'll see how this goes. Zero telethon. A negative telethon, yeah. And thanks a lot for your WhatsApps. Yeah, we've just heard from someone who stopped a Tory in the streets and somehow asked them for money and got some. So that's a negative. Further news on that, actually, it just turned out to be some melted chocolate coins. Oh dear. The Zero telethon. See where we can go with that. I think the chat's a bit laggy. There we go. Should be up to speed now. Genie Bottle, thank you very much for that zero pledge. Keep the zero money for the Conservative Party rolling in. Speaking of zeros, here's another absolute bastard. Well, I say tongue-in-cheek, he is the only person who's perhaps so abhorrent that they get their own legally obliged intro. But before we have to mention him. Okay, be warned, people. He's back in the headlines again.
Warning. This section of the stream contains details of the inner workings of Peter Mandelson's twisted brain. Anyone who isn't a serpentine weirdo may find the following scenes distressing. No, seriously, it's really bad.
He is increasingly bad. Yes. Sorry. Sorry for the corpsing. It's a good chat this evening. If you donate 1p, it costs them 20 pence to process the payment. I'll do some quick mathematics here. It's good. Minus. I feel like you any good at minuses. Minus 19. You sure? Minus 19 pence. Good idea. But on to Monday. It's just a quick one, actually, fortunately. Do you know when he was ambassador to the United States? Turns out he didn't even get interviewed for the role. There were no conflicts of interest checks, there were no background checks, nothing. He was literally just given the role, handed the role. Someone, Tony Blair, excuse me, someone probably just went, well, it's going to be Peter. That's who. It's going to be Peter. And lo and behold, well, I say lo and behold, if we go to the right section. I think this just came out today. Was not interviewed for the US ambassador job. God, that's a picture that makes your skin crawl. Ugh. Okay, let's quickly get through this. God, I hate this piece of shit. The head of the civil service, Sir Chris Wormold, said there was no interview because, you know, Mandy was directly appointed to the role. Yeah, no shit. MPs heard that process meant Mandy was not directly asked about any conflicts of interest with interviewers in person, but instead needed to fill in a form aimed at more potential financial conflicts. It said the process has been changed since Mandy's exit to ensure a formal, minuted interview happens. Concern about Mandy's friendship with Epstein were raised at the time, but his ability to deal with President Trump as well as his ability as a networker and seasoned political operator was seen as a valuable asset. And we hear this so many times, don't we? Oh, well, he knows a lot of people. He can get you in touch with such and such. Like he's some sort of golden goose. I think there's more to it than that. Because he's just your general, absolute pits of humanity. Then it's just a series of quotes of people saying the same thing. That he wasn't interviewed. So let's, quickly, briefly get that. Human detritus. Use the term human very fleetingly, very generously there. Off the screen. Okay, let's just do a quick shake-off, de-Mandy ourselves, people. Feel free to do your own grounding exercises and whatnot. Deep inhalations and exhalations, perhaps. Should work on a series of, perhaps, audio. The sort of audio series of demandifying. Remember, Mandy does not live in your dreams, he cannot hurt you. But Postman Twat can. It's a nightmare. Alright. Halloween has been and gone. Just one more quick, whilst we're on the topic of Labour and tussing at things. Another one of these so-called quality candidates is in the headline, well, not the main headlines, but in the news again. Former Labour councillor. Another one of these quality candidates, no doubt. Let's see what this one's been up to this time. Let's just same as the Tories, isn't it? It's like just a production line of neoliberal shithouses. Grifters, shitehawks, corrupt, immoral wankers of the highest order, the first division, the cream of the crop of shittery. Here's the latest one. Fresh from whichever salon your nan went to in the 80s. Oliver Stedman has appeared in court facing a charge of blackmail in connection with the alleged honey trap plot targeting men involved in Westminster politics last year. Stedman, he's only 28. He's only 28 years of age. Okay. Was arrested in June last year and later charged with 1 count of blackmailing then Conservative MP William Ragg in order to get the telephone numbers of up to 12 individuals. So he's a blackmailer. An alleged blackmailer, I guess, I have to say. An alleged blackmailer. 28. He's also been charged with 5 communications offences, including 4 relating to the sending of, quote, alleged unsolicited indecent images. Prosecutor Vincent Scully said the charges, which span between the 8th of October 23 to the 31st of March 24, were all linked. It's all linked. It's all linked. It's all connected. It's a conspiracy. No, it just looks like a one-man show, to be honest. So what's... It's pretty vague. Right, let me think here. Might have pretended to be someone he isn't, a female, online to entice these Tories and get them to send dick pics or whatever back to these non-existent people. What do you call it? Catfishing. And then he uses that to blackmail them. Is that what he's supposed to have done? If that's what the honey trap thing is. And maybe it's something like that, but it's not too rich in the detail. But he's been granted unconditional bail and is due to appear at Southwark Crown Court on December 1st for anybody who wants to go and show your support. There he is. Tisk, so it's another one from the neoliberal Tisk files. Quality candidates. Not as quality as this quality. Livestream people, please make sure that you hit thumbs up. Yeah, maybe that guy there has got a time machine, went back to the 80s or something. But there's a lot of 80s throwback at the moment happening with the youth. Well, 28 isn't that tender, I guess. Orphan Annie haircuts, Mobius. What, from the musical? Okay. Before I get lost in thought on that one, let's get on to the main staple of the stream, this Corbyn speech. Going over a lot more of what your party is all about, and I can reveal none of you will be aware of this, I'm certain. But earlier on today at another meeting, they've been all over the place, and the name of the place that this was announced will come to me in a moment, but for now I'll reveal again that it is that is, your party has just surpassed 50,000 members, it was announced. Very impressive, very impressive. And we're going to take a look at the meeting from yesterday, which took place in Peckham, in London, which I'm sure a lot of you will know is the setting, one of the classic British comedies, Only Fools and Horses. Which in about 8 weeks' time will be inescapable from our television sets. You know what I'm getting at. So yeah, 50,000 hardcore members, plus affiliates. Can you count? Can you count, suckers?
Can you dig? Can you dig? Can you dig it?
Right, so let's get into it. After we watch this, I'll get into a bit more about the Greens, specifically where London's concerned, because this speech that you're going to see took place in Peckham. Members-wise, it looks as though your party have a bit of catching up to do. That is relative to the Greens, on roughly a third of the membership that the Green Party have at the moment, but there's still a long way before the next scheduled elections, so we'll go into some debates about membership and stuff like that after we've watched this. Just want to give a shout out to the source for this footage. If anybody wants to check it out, they've actually got some other videos up from other people who spoke at the meeting yesterday. Just to remind you, this isn't my footage, I wasn't there, didn't nip down to London after the Sunday live stream or before or whatever. But if you go to e-law resources, that's e-law, e-law resources, they do have some of the other speakers from yesterday's Your Party meeting in Peckham. Credit where it's due.
And all the work you put into all these assemblies and events we've done all over the country. Thank you to all the volunteers that have done so much work today to facilitate the discussion, and the volunteers that are doing the same all over the country. And thank you to Laura, my wife, and Richard Baldwin, because this weekend we've been over in Cornwall doing exactly the same thing there. We've just come back this afternoon, so we're here in time for this event, because it is important that we understand that Your Party.uk is a party for the whole country, for every part of the country, for all those communities all across the country who are sharing their ideas and sharing their thoughts. I've been to quite a lot of the discussion meetings as well as a large number of rallies around the country. And whilst at a local level sometimes the issues differ and vary a bit, but fundamentally the whole issues are about poverty, injustice, inequality, and a feeling of hopelessness that so many people have in modern Britain. None of the existing political parties are offering actually any real hope to anybody. What we've got in Parliament is a triopoly of political thinking. They agree on the economy. Austerity 2.0 is here and going on. They agree on economic ideas. They agree on most social policies, and they absolutely agree on most international policies. When you get to discussing things like developing a new generation of nuclear weapons, there are but a handful of us in Parliament that even question the notion of developing a weapon that could destroy the whole planet, and we're told that we're the irresponsible ones. And so I think there's never been a time when it's more important for there to be an alternative. So when we set out the initial ideas around forming your party, and I understand the feelings of a lot of people that it all should have been done years ago. Basically, it's all my fault that it wasn't done years ago. But we have a general rule in my...
Well, he did get a lot of flack. A lot of people said he should turn the Peace and Justice Project into a party, and he was sort of pestered about whether he would or wouldn't do that for a while, and then whether he'd form a new party in general, and so on. You have to say, he might have dragged his feet maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, he's really influential, and that's a big decision. That's a big thing to undertake.
Office that every single thing that goes wrong is my fault, because that way everybody can get on with each other, because they can all unite and blame me, and it works fine, and that's okay. The reason that it took a while to get to this was that there were obviously huge battles going on within the Labour Party, and as you know, I was removed as a Labour MP just over a year ago, and we fought the campaign, thank you, we fought the campaign to be elected as an independent MP for Islington North. And I want to thank all those hundreds of people that came and helped that magnificent campaign, which resulted in a victory over a huge amount of money spent by all the other parties to try and win over. And we showed them that it was possible to win on a radical agenda. And I'm very proud of one of the leaflets we put out, the one right at the end of the campaign, which I put on the front of it. It said, "Refugees are welcome here." And so our agenda is about economic justice and equality. It is about public ownership of key services and industries, but it's also about the imagination behind them. For example, there's plenty of other examples I'll give, but I'll give this one. I'm sure there are many people in this room that love Thames Water but don't want to tell us about it. They want to keep it quietly to themselves. But you think of Thames Water, privatised 35 years ago. Since that time, since the privatisation of the entire industry, £72 billion has been taken out of the industry and paid
72 billion. 72 billion. And these are the same people who are literally putting crap into our water supply. Sorry, just a quick look at the chat there. Oh, I'm glad you like the meme at the start there, Floor Snake. Thanks a lot. Yeah, the Usher Van Swan. Bit off topic. But yeah, these water companies, and unless they are renationalised, that's all that's going to continue happening. And there was something else in the news today about plastics in the water supply as well. The conversation on this is getting ridiculous. Public ownership now.
In dividends, executive pay and bonuses.
Shame!
£72 billion. And And then they have the temerity to write to us to say they're really sorry the water bills are going up, but they've got to deal with the problem of leaks. Well, hang on a minute. If you don't maintain a pipe, it rusts, and you end up with a leak. It's pretty obvious to me. And then, when you run the service so badly that come storm time, you are incapable of coping with it. You then pour raw sewage into the Thames and every other river, and raw sewage into the sea.
Yeah, but one thing that it just blows my mind, and you know, it's crazy when you think that these people make so much money selling something that falls out of the fucking sky. For God's sake, it falls out of the sky, and these people manage to make £72 billion in profit out of it. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Anything that's essential to human life, obviously scientifically, we all know water is one of those. It should be free. There's no reason it can't be free to all and for all, or at least unbelievably cheap, as good as free. Such an insignificant cost that you won't miss. You won't be staring at your bills, your quarterlies coming through, biting your fingernails or whatever. No. Again, for something that falls out of the sky. 72 billion.
Not just once, not just twice, but 300,000 times last year across the whole country. What you see is the real price of greed and privatisation. The real price is the pollution of our streams, the pollution of our rivers, and the deadening of our seas by the sewage that's poured into them. Those people that have done all that have made millions out of it all. It's time for us to take over Thames Water. And when I challenged the Secretary of State for this, Steve Reed, an MP from not so very far away from here, he told me, he said, it's all a great shame. It really is a terrible shame about these leaks, a terrible shame about this pollution, and a terrible shame about the management of Thames Water. I thought, okay, well, I can go along with that. But what comes next? He said, and we're going to bring in better regulation. We've had 35 years of regulation.
Well, so-called regulation. It wouldn't, you know, there wouldn't be again literal shit in the water and so much in our rivers and streams and seas if it was properly regulated as well. And that's the worst part about it. They'd not only make so much profit bringing this water that falls out of the sky into a tap and then into a receptacle of whichever kind. They can't stop it from getting crap in there as well. It's just so shamefully greedy, so shamefully corrupt.
And where's it led to with all this pollution? And so I said, well, really, the only answer is to take it into public ownership so that the entire company is then accountable to the public. And I'm almost quoting the exact words as far as I can remember them. He said, this government, meaning the Keir Starmer-led Labour government, does not see any role for the public sector in running the water industry. It has to be in private hands, but publicly regulated. That is the mentality of a new Labour government. That is the mentality of austerity second time round. My suggestion is this, as an example of how we can deal with public ownership. I don't want to create a nationalised industry like we had in the 1940s. I don't actually think that's a terribly good system where the government hands out directorships like confetti to its friends and lets them get on with it, and the companies are run much like it would be in the private sector. I would much rather we had a water industry that was owned by the community.
I'm sorry. Just how it turned and went towards the plant there, it's almost as though this is being filmed by a spy with a very poor disguise trying to hide behind a yucca plant.
Management by the workforce, the local communities, the local authorities, local small businesses, and the Environment Agency. So there's a whole buy-in to how water is processed, cleansed, and how our natural world is looked after, where we all have a stake in it. And if we've all got a stake in it, do you think any mad right-wing government of the future would ever manage to privatise it? No, because it would be simply too popular to be privatised. As the government found, the last government found, to its cost when they tried to privatise the Forestry Commission. You remember all that? So I put that forward as an example of the kind of alternatives we have to put forward. But we also have to look at the issues of social injustice within our society. The government is now raising defence expenditure massively. It's going to go up ultimately by 13 billion a year more, at least, in line with the demands made by others, particularly Trump and NATO and so on. And I think we have to say we're not going to accept those. But
well, you know, was the discussion pretty much we're going for World War III, you're either on board or not, and you don't want to get caught with your pants down, so you better increase the defence budget because it's going to get hot up in here, motherfucker. Pretty much. Excuse the French, but that's the way the industrial military complex likes to play.
They're saying we're going to have to pay for it by making cuts elsewhere. So the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions gets up in Parliament and announces that, this is not so long ago, she was not just reviewing personal independence payments, she was going to cut them by taking £5 billion out of the personal independence payments budget. Now, many of us have fought for many years to get the idea of independent living for people with disabilities, to get the PIP system, to get that sense of respect for people with disabilities, and they tried to take it all away. I called a public meeting, a forum in my constituency, and we invited the local organisation, Disability Action in Islington, and those on PIP to come along to the meeting. A lot came. I hardly said anything.
Mobius, this is your guy, isn't it? This is your representative in the House of Commons, your member of Parliament. Are you familiar with that organisation? Do wholly support the DPAC movement, and again, to do this locally in each individual place that they go into, and specific emphasis on disabled rights, I think is a fantastic thing. So yeah.
At the meeting, just listened to what they said, the way they described how they were managing to live independently, but they needed help with going to the bathroom, feeding themselves, or cooking and so on, but they were living independently, and they were proud of that. All that would be taken away. They were terrified of what was going to happen to them. And they knew that at the end of the day, it would be a friend, a member of the family, or somebody else that would come along and help out. We'd be going back 100 years in the way in which we treat people with disabilities. The government eventually backed off.
We almost literally have. Not too long ago, I saw a documentary about the post-war health crisis in Britain, and there was this footage that was taken, I think, in perhaps the 1950s, 1960s. Endless wheelchairs as the camera moved down a corridor in a hospital, and just the blank, expressionless faces on these elderly people. We're talking septuagenarians, octogenarians, nonagenarians. And the documentary sadly highlighted how many of these people chose to take their own lives so as not to be either a burden on the families or go through that suffrage, because they were literally just shoved into a corner. And now, in 2025, we're hearing the same kind of stories of wheelchairs lining up in corridors, of people being stuffed into rooms, of people being left inside their own urine and feces for hours and days at a time. And that's not a way to treat people. That is not a way that people who suffer disabilities can live a dignified life, which they're entitled to do.
Just about. And said they would delay it. And instead they would maybe the next generation lose PIP. And so they agreed to set up a review. Now that review is going...
Hey, Idiosyncrasy, thank you very much for the 5 gifted memberships. Have we had a raid as well? Just have to scroll up. And have we had a raid? If we have, welcome everybody. Great to see you. Thanks again for those 5 gifted memberships. Let's update the total. We're just going through Jeremy Corbyn's appearance in Peckham yesterday. Hearing a bit more about what your party are about in general, as well as plans for London, where that's concerned. Great to see everybody. You're very welcome. Please hit thumbs up as you join us on the stream. And let us know if there's been a raid. And I'll give a shout out to the appropriate channel. But for now, let's get back to the vid.
At the moment. It's led by the Minister, Stephen Timms, and he's supported by a lot of civil servants in undertaking that review. Well, I've got a plan, I've got a proposal here for yourparty.uk.
It was No Justice. Shout out to Helena at No Justice, awesome channel. I'm sure that a lot of viewers tonight will be familiar with the channel already, but if you not do, go to No Justice MTG, subscribe. If you do like stuff here on My Left Eye, I'm sure that you'll like the content there as well. Great stuff from Helena.
We've got thousands of supporters and thousands of members all over the country, many of whom will be in receipt of PIP, many of whom will be receipt of different benefits, many of whom will have disabilities. I think we should have a commission on the future of disability living held by us simply through our members who can make their proposals. So we lead the agenda on people with disabilities, setting the agenda for how people with disabilities should be treated within our society.
Hear, hear.
This would be a form of empowerment. And the challenge to what the government is doing, because in the budget that's going to come up in, 3 weeks' time, I don't know what's going to be in that budget, maybe they don't know yet, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be about taking millions of the lowest paid out of income tax altogether. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be about putting...
Yes, Andy, just reminding people, this isn't my footage, didn't pop down to Peckham yesterday, but the channel will be at the Your Party conference coming up in a few weeks' time on the 29th in Liverpool. That was decided via a poll on yesterday's stream. So we will be there, people.
A lot more money into education. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be putting a lot of more money into the poorest inner city communities. I'm pretty sure we're going to hear a great deal about freeing up business in order to develop our economy, giving power to business in housing and all the other developments that's going on, because that's the whole mentality and direction in which they're going. Our mentality is the exact opposite. Our mentality is about you measure the success of a government or a council or society by how it treats the poorest, how it treats the most vulnerable, what it's doing to reduce the levels of inequality and injustice within our society.
Yeah, that's how you judge a government, by how it judges the most vulnerable, because that tells you what they'd treat the rest of us like if they could get away with it. For example, trying to take the country out of the ECHR to remove human rights is sort of tied in with that, as an example.
That is how I would want any government we were involved with to be measured in the future, not by the sort of normal economic indices that they're putting forward all the time.
Very enthusiastic vocal audience as well.
The government, and indeed most of the industrial world, is now quickly rowing back on the whole idea of environmental sustainability. They're suddenly pretending that global warming isn't happening. Well,
you read the shots. She said,
the people of Jamaica have suffered the most horrendous,
she's still in the shots.
Horrendous hurricane last week. The biggest ever, strongest ever hurricane that's ever hit that island. Whole areas have been completely destroyed. Areas that I actually know quite well have been completely destroyed and wiped out. Because the hurricane came, yes, because that hurricane was devastating, obviously it was, from a much warmer sea, from global warming. You put
Yeah, the frequency won't necessarily increase, but the intensity certainly will as a result of global warming and rising temperatures, as Jeremy's rightly describing here.
It's all across the world. That is what is happening. So we need to not just talk about it, we need to embrace net zero by 2030. We need to be stronger on environmental sustainability and protection of biodiversity at the same time. That has to be part and parcel of what we do. And the jobs you create through environmental sustainability, through clean energy projects, clean transport projects and all the rest. It is not a threat to jobs and living standards, it's actually the very opposite. It actually creates highly skilled jobs and higher living standards, and obviously a better quality of life for everybody, because you're breathing cleaner air and eating better food as a result of it. So let's embrace that environmental agenda. Now, there is a need to recognise the horror show that's going on at the moment within our society. The way in which reform characterises people within our society. You heard just now the threat that's been made to migrant workers within our society. And earlier today, I was doing a television discussion, if you can call it that, with somebody from Reform UK.
He's always got the book. He's always got this little book, hasn't he? He's one of the few politicians that you see who actually, you know, makes notes and refers to notes that they've made. Often when just talking to ordinary people as well. One thing I always notice about Corbyn, and you have to admire that, I guess. Old school.
Something that a wonderful man, Lefty, said some years ago. I quote, "It's easier to divide and control the people by directing them towards scapegoats than it is to solve the problems you've caused by financial inequalities and greed." That's what Lefty said some years ago.
Wise man!
Absolutely right. The Reform person that I was in discussion with said that it's very important to get everybody out of this country who's on indefinite leave to remain, that migrants and refugees are a drain on our society, and that we'd all be better off if they were all, I assume, forcibly removed. So I said to her, well, why don't you shut up with your bile and your prejudices for a moment. Head off to the nearest hospital, walk around that hospital, and make a mental note as you're walking around of everybody there that you meet or you talk to who is on indefinite leave to remain, was or is a refugee or asylum seeker, is somebody that has migrated to this country from another country. Take them all out of the hospital, and what you will have then is one big, happy, lovely, empty building.
And then those same people will be like, why isn't anybody cleaning up all of this mess? Or, you know, why is my relative dead? For example. Unbelievable. And just want to point out as well, I think that Corbyn's a lot better. This is more of his natural environment in this sort of setting, as opposed to the sort of big, you know, the teleprompter kind of things. He just gets to vibe off the audience and just let his natural self flow a bit more. He's got his notebook there, and this is how he likes to do it, because he knows that he's sort of talking to a community. And when you see him at conference and other things, while he is great in what he says, I just think that this is just a lot better in terms of environment. And where teleprompters are concerned, there was the one notorious incident where he was reading out instructions as a declaration, wasn't it? Strong emphasis here. Yeah, I'm not taking the piss or anything, but this is really good. And the message is what goes next.
Could not survive without migrant workers. Transport for London could not survive without migrant workers. But also, what kind of society society would you be creating by that kind of vile mentality? And so we'll be there with you outside Downing
Street. This is something else that's going to be good to see from this left surge. You're actually going to see politicians and leaders of parties at the heads of protests and on strikes and things like this, showing support, as opposed to just sort of shouting from the sidelines or whatever. These are people who actually get down there and physically support whatever it is that they're about. Put the money where the mouth is,
endless debate
that's for
that goes
sure.
on about the boat people coming into Britain. Now, get it clear, I do not think trying to travel across the channel in a small boat is a good idea. I think it's incredibly dangerous. But I think of what Wassan Shire said in her wonderful poem. You only put yourself and your children, your family, in that kind of danger when it seems safer to go into a leaky boat at sea than it is to stay on the land. Yeah. That is the reality.
That is the thing that the mainstream media never highlight. That is something that is never put to their guess. And like, how many times are they going to interview Zia Youssef, and other unelected people? Hint of irony with Zach Belansky there, obviously, but you know what I mean. The overproportionate amounts of coverage that Reform tend to get, and they never talk about why people choose to put themselves into those circumstances, and they never want the audience to imagine having to put their family into a crappy boat that they've put a lot of money, they're banking everything, their whole lives on this endeavour to get across however many countries, and then a small channel sea, but rough seas nevertheless, and notorious for it. A dangerous journey. So what have they left behind if they'll put themselves in circumstances like that? Why don't we hear that from the mainstream media? Why don't we hear that from Reform? Why don't we hear that from the Tories? Why don't we hear that from Keir Starmer more?
So can't we as a society and a community park the prejudice, just park it, and think of human beings around the world who are victims of war, of human rights abuse, of environmental degradation, of civil...
I'm gonna hide in the yucca plant until the until the meeting starts, and then commence filming. Just the yucca plant getting in a bit more. Good to see some more familiar names arriving in the chat as well. Graham Turner, how you doing? Solidarity to everybody joining us from No Justice.
Wars created by the arms trade, look at Sudan and other places at the present time, and start looking at it with a sense of humanity, and think of all the tens of thousands that have died in the Mediterranean in the past few years, and the hundreds who've been put at risk, and some sadly who've died in crossing the Channel. Historians in 100 years' time, when they describe this period in the earlier part of the 21st century, will say, what happened to everybody? That suddenly all their humanity disappeared, and they were prepared to observe and watch people drown to death because they were trying to get to a place of safety. What is wrong with...
And even worse than that, don't know where this will happen, don't know when in the future it will happen, but somewhere in the world. A history teacher might be using this example of this point in time in the UK, and the students won't believe that there were politicians who openly said things such as put machine guns on the coast, or atop the White Cliffs of Dover, I think was the specific area that they referred to. So even worse than just ignoring the plight of these people and the death of so many who risked their lives to get here. Revolts into the corner.
For the rights of those people, and look at the causes. Look at the causes which force people to become refugees in the first place. Look at ourselves and the amount we spend on the arms trade and the way we arm people and that create the wars which many of those people are the victims of. And you can go to Calais, talk to those people in those desperate camps where they're abused by the racists and the French police all the time, and it's like a cook's tour of the modern warfare around the world of people who've fled from the most appalling situations. I just think we, your party.uk, can be a voice for humanity, reason and decency within our society. Let's make it that. Really pleased that we had
Getting 2019 vibes off of this. Hopefully 2017 as well.
all the speakers we had tonight, but I was particularly pleased with the speech about education, because I have a strong view on education, which is why when I became leader of the Labour Party I was determined to get the idea of the National Education Service up and running. The idea being that there should be free education from cradle to grave for all, that there should be a return to the idea of the public running education rather than the academy trusts or the private companies that run the colleges and all the
And of course, who set up those academies? Of course, it's multi-millionaire. Something that rhymes with multi-millionaire Tony Blair.
Can be academically independent rather than the plaything of big business and often arms companies at the same time. So that was the whole thinking behind the National Education Service. And so again, we've got many people in our party, your party, who are very knowledgeable on this. They're students, they're parents, they're teachers, they're workers in the education service. They understand these things. They also want to change it. And so I think what we were putting forward then was an end to the testing at Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 in primary schools. That the ending of Ofsted's role in and instead a supportive system which gives schools the opportunity where maybe they could improve things, understanding how to improve things. You achieve far more in life by persuasion and cooperation than you do by threats and sanctions against them. And that needs to be put forward. And that's why I think we need to again have a serious examination of how we can put forward education policies in local government where we have influence on it, but ultimately in national government as well. Because these things are very important to me. That our children, growing up overstressed and overtested in school, often pushed out of exam courses because they're not going to get a good enough grade, which will have the terrible consequence of knocking the school somewhere down the league table. So our children then become victims of this sort of competitivitis in education and lose out badly as a result of it. And so let's look at it differently. Let's look at it differently with a much more supportive education system and look at the issues that impact on it, the mental health issues that impact on children because of the stress they're under, and often because of the way in which social media operates on their mindset and their activities as well. There's a whole lot of areas we need to look at seriously there. I do not believe that this government has actually got the slightest intention of changing the education service, which will improve it in the way that we want to. Instead, they've given the teachers a well below inflation pay offer on top of the cuts that have been made in education for the past 15 years as well. So let's make ourselves the party that's serious about universal free education for all from cradle to grave.
There's no incentive. The financial burden of further education at the moment is just so overwhelming. It really puts people off. That isn't something that should happen. People are entitled to educate themselves, and we're more than capable of doing that at the same time as ending the privilege of so-called public schools, which are actually private. English is strange.
When we talk about the issues that students face in school, the poverty that many children bring into school with them when they come into school hungry, the mental health stress that many suffer because of overcrowded housing, because of over-pressurised society, and the mental health many parents suffer where they have to do 2 or sometimes even 3 jobs just to be able to feed their family. That's the consequences of poverty within our society in the 5th richest country in the world. 1 million people using food banks every year. And then you look at the very fundamental...
A million. It's obscene. It's an obscene amount of people to have to use food banks. And we talk about not just unemployed people, as well people who are in work and using food banks.
Issue of housing. I spent a lot of yesterday talking with people in Cornwall about their housing issues. And you might say, well, hang on, have they got housing issues in Cornwall? Oh, they have. Yeah, they have. They've got issues with a very large private rented sector, half of which is well below standard. They've got very high levels of rent, and in every town or village, they've got hundreds of homes that are basically empty all the time because they're second homes for people that can afford a second home. And of course, empty homes in a village kills that village and kills that community very, very quickly and forces the poor to move out altogether. And so you end up with a deeply divided society. And what we were discussing then was regulation of the...
Yeah, because you don't have people in them to basically feed the local economies. They're not using the local facilities, they're not buying the food locally, so on and so forth.
Private rented sector, regulation or planning to prevent the numbers of holiday homes and things like that, but also the need to develop far more council housing. And then we got into the discussion of the inefficiency, inadequacy and fundamental lack of democracy of most of the housing associations across the whole country. And so you then look around us here in London, just down the road, this development proposed for Peckham, look a bit further down the road, the massive development proposed for Lewisham. All of these things are predicated by a private sector investment in taking away a facility, in the case of Peckham, like a shopping centre, Lewisham similar, and so on, and replacing it with very high-rise buildings.
Well, what about the smaller traders like, I've just picked what, let's have a quick look online here. Trotters Independent Traders. Yeah, these are the small family businesses. I'm sure that guy looks familiar. The owner there. Yeah, but businesses like that, who we should be helping out instead of the corporations.
Buildings, which themselves would then become problematic. But very little of it would be even what they euphemistically call social housing, never mind council. So what we have in London is a constant process of social cleansing of inner London by the developers. You know how it works. Developers find a site, just for argument's sake, because the numbers are easy that way, a site in which you can build 100 properties. The council comes along and says, well, we'd like them to be, could you make half of them affordable? No way! We can't possibly develop it with that number. Well, 40%? Oh, God, you're hard. Well, yeah, well...
It's just so hard to get across an idea where nobody gets rich off of the back end of it, really, ultimately, in the current system, the way things are. And this is the challenge that you face. This is the pushback that you get, not just on a national level, but a local level, as Corbyn's describing here. Somewhat, you know, they'll move abroad, they'll take all of the wealth away, and they're all leaving en masse, all these millionaires and billionaires, which they aren't. Nobody is interested in facilitating need. It's just all about wealth off of the back end, and I'm sure we've all seen those memes of Johnson in the hospital from when he was Prime Minister, and it's who gets the money? And she's having to explain that it's a hospital and people go there to get better. But they just don't get it. If there's no money to be made, then they call you ludicrous for proposing something where nobody gets rich. That's how messed up it is.
We'll have them for, we'll have those for real rent, and then the council then says, well, how many for social rent, council housing rent levels? And you usually end up with less than 30%. And Sadiq Khan is now proposing to reduce the social housing element to less than 20%. So it's as if London is just in the thrall of the property developers and the biggest businesses. What is wrong with London government and central government? They can't simply say to the construction companies, we want there to be a very large number of council housings being built. We will pay you to build them, but we don't need your advice on what the content of those areas should be. It's for us to deal with the issue of the housing crisis and the shortage that exists all across London and all the other big cities. So let's be proud of council housing and make sure that we build a lot more of it.
Well, another good response from the audience. You know, what happened last night? Were they all waving red flags on top of burned out cars by the end of this? I'm only joking. Mobius, good idea, good point there in the chat. How about a your party candidate for London Mayor? That would maybe put the cat amongst the political pigeons of Trafalgar Square.
Rent bill, the private sector rented bill. Now, the bill itself is an improvement, I acknowledge that. It ends no-fault eviction, it gives slightly longer tenancies, it gives a slight degree of security, and it gives a slight improvement in conditions. Good, good, and good, as far as it goes. But the problem is, it doesn't regulate the level of rent charged in the private rented sector. Now, I don't suppose it's much different around here. In my constituency, you can't rent a reasonable two-bedroom flat for much less than £2,000 a month. So that means you've got to have a pretty big income.
Jesus, top dancing Christ. It's London, yeah. People who don't know, the wages are on average higher. In London, it's a lot more expensive, but that's still proportionately ridiculous. £2,000 per month for crap, for a very small room. And a couple of years ago, travelling on the tube, I started to notice some of the adverts that were put up, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. And I might have pointed this out before, but just for anybody who hasn't heard this yet, if you're from London, you might have seen them yourselves, perhaps. But it says, help out with the house. I'm paraphrasing. Help out with the housing crisis. Rent out your back bedroom for £800 a month. I think it was around £800 a month. And the first time I saw it, I had to reread it 3 or 4 times just to reassure myself that that's what it said, whilst also telling myself, shouting at myself in my head, that is the housing crisis, is people being charged £800 a month for a back bedroom. For God's help out with the housing crisis. Rent out your back bedroom for £800 a month. And that's less than half of the £2,000 a month. I'm sure there's not only a lot of people that don't make £2,000 a month in London, there's a lot of families that perhaps don't make £2,000 a month. 2.4 children, atypical nuclear family, whatever you want to call it. £2,000 a month. For any of our US viewers watching, that's going on about $2,400 a month ish. Not checked the exchange rates this morning. Didn't get through the full FT because my butler interrupted with some more foie gras.
To be able to do that. And within the private rented sector, more than half of the tenants pay more than half of their take-home pay in rent. Some pay 60 or even 70. I was talking to somebody the other day who doesn't have a particularly bad job actually, pays 70% of their take-home pay in rent just to find somewhere to live in London. That's untenable, that's unsustainable. So we do need rent regulation, including rent controls in the private rented sector. And we need to do far more to support the people that are rough sleeping homeless, where, yes, things have gone wrong in their lives. Yes, things do go wrong in people's lives, and they end up in a terrible situation. We don't need to pass by on the other side. We need a society to say, we could do it if we wanted to. We will end all homelessness by
He would have done it 9 o'clock day one had he been elected in 2019. He said that would have been his first act as Prime Minister, the first thing he would have signed off, ending homelessness, and it's a vision he still has. It's something that needs to be done. And again, just to remind you, things like this, housing and water, basic human necessities, are something that everybody's entitled to and should be entitled to, and shouldn't be put over a barrel to provide themselves and the family with.
Two other things I just want to say before I sit down. The way in which the world is at the moment is that last year $24 trillion was spent on arms. $24 trillion spent by the arms trade, and those arms were...
Sorry, a bit of a mic problem there. I was just pointing out it's actually, because he said he wants to sit down, pretty admirable that in his 70s he can stand for so long and orate so well. Just sort of shows the grit that he's had throughout his political career, because he's been through the mill, perhaps more than anybody else has ever been.
Told that fueled every single conflict in the world. If you look at the horror show of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, that has led to an increase in share prices of Western arms manufacturers, and don't think a lot of people in the arms industry in Russia and other countries haven't made a lot of money out of that conflict as well, and still are.
Billions.
That conflict has to come to an end. There has to be a diplomatic way forward. There has to be a ceasefire. I can't stand watching on television conscripted soldiers from both sides killing each other in this First World War style conflict. I do not support what Russia's done. I want to see an end to that war, and I would want us to be an agency for peace and negotiations rather than one that will continue the war. And in the case of the horror show, of the genocide that's taking place in Gaza, 60,000 known deaths in Gaza. Goodness knows how many thousands of more bodies there are under the...
Let's see some flags and watermelons in the chat, please, people.
We got expert evidence from 29 expert witnesses over 2 days, all on the record, all very much in public. And it was wonderful to hear such brilliant people. It was heartrending, the story that they gave us. Surgeons operating without antiseptic or anaesthetic on children, causing unbelievable pain, in some cases the children dying from heart failure from the pain, even though the operation had been at one level successful. And the horror story that doctor after doctor had to tell about they were trying to save life while bombardment was going on. And the bravery of those doctors continuing to work in hospitals whilst being bombed by the IDF at the same time. And then
Yes, and Lebanon and Sudan as well, of course. Solidarity. Thanks a lot, people.
Which were allegedly to find the hostages. I asked if that was the case, that I'm sure they would be very happy to provide all the information from those overflights to the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court to help them with their prosecutions of the war criminals. And they said no, they couldn't do that because the information had to be held by the RAF. Hang on a minute. I thought Britain was supposed to be behind international law and supposed to be supporting it. Don't worry, we're going to...
Can you imagine a day where they are in The Hague, Netanyahu, Starmer, Lamy, and it's the prosecution's turn, and into the dock gets this great politician you can see on your screens, and he's got a series of notes and he gives them the old sort of top down there, and wouldn't that be something to behold, how he exposes the UK's complicity in these atrocious war crimes.
We carry on with that argument, but we're still supplying weapons, we're still supplying components for the F-35 jets, and the Trump deal is not a deal that brings about peace. It's not a deal for the future. It's not a deal to require Israel to withdraw from Gaza and the West Bank and allow the refugees to go home. It's a deal that keeps Israel in Gaza. It's a deal that keeps the subjugation of the Palestinian people in operation, and it keeps the arms trade happy all over the world. And so it's our government that has been complicit in so much of this. Yes, the Americans have produced far more than in weapons, but Britain, France, Germany and others have all been complicit in this.
It's like I said, I don't care if it's a fucking fighter pilot's sock or a doorknob. Not a single thing it should be sent there. We should have a full embargo, full trade embargo, full arms embargo. Not a single product should enter there from this country, or nor should we manufacture any products that through any nefarious means might make its way there. And where the F-35 parts are concerned, David Lammy, excuse me, has tried to worm his way out of it by saying, well, we just sort of make them and throw them into this big pot and then it's decided where they go, when he tries to skirt around the question as to whether F-35 parts have gone to Israel. And they have. And a lot more. But, yeah. I don't care what it is.
As I said earlier, in the context of something else, the history books, when they're written, is going to be very harsh on those governments that knew the genocide was going on, could see it live on television, but still kept on supplying the wherewithal for the genocide to continue. Our job is to support the people of Palestine and take our hats off to all those brave people that have been on all the marches, meetings and demonstrations, and brave people in Israel that's also spoken out against Netanyahu and what their government has done. We're in solidarity with those demanding justice and peace all around the world, and an end to the occupation, and an end to the way in which the Palestinian people have been seen to
That yucca plant's very enthusiastic, isn't it? Very, very loud voice.
Now eyed up by those that want the uranium, that want the gold, that want the copper, that want the lithium and all that's there in Sudan. And so I want yourparty.uk to be an agency for peace, an agency for serious international thinking and solidarity, working with groups like Progressive International around the world to try to bring about that better world of peace and justice. But then in final, it's how we do it as a party that's so important. How are you as a party?
How are we going to build this party? We don't need this.
Can I finish, please?
Oh, don't.
If you don't mind.
Sometimes there's always one when you get a crowd like this. Remember when we were doing some of the bigger JSO meetings, for example, with Chris Peckham, for example. Peckham, sorry. Peckham. Because this is in Peckham. Chris Peckham. I mean, and yeah, just interrupting someone's speech to sort of, that, oh, we already know all of this, when are we? I mean, come on, just be respectful, man.
What I'm saying is that we've brought a lot of people together in the party because they want to see a different political voice, because they want to see a united political voice, because they want to see a genuine socialist society. We have to understand that many have come together from different backgrounds, different political traditions, often have different ideas. That's not a bad thing, it's actually a very good thing. It gives us the opportunity of achieving a great deal. I think fundamentally we have to be grassroots based and organised. Every local branch, in whatever area it comes up, be it constituency, borough, city, town, whatever, I think has to have a self-denying ordinance that they will have at least one public event every month when they're answerable to and involved with the local community on the campaigns that are mounted within that community. So that the strength of the party is your party in the community, working with people in the community for better health, better housing, better schools, better jobs, and all those kind of issues, and being that political voice of challenging to the ghastly orthodoxy of economy, war, and environmental destruction, which is what we're faced with at the present time. Our party can make a massive difference. It can make a massive difference to people's lives. It can lift up the lives of so many people. It can be a force for education as well. We bring up young people to be empowered by themselves, empowered by their knowledge, rather than being treated as commercial objects, as so many are in the present world. Our party is a fantastic opportunity. I hope we're going to have a great conference when we meet in Liverpool at the end of the month. I hope from that we will grow faster and further in all parts of the...
The meta plants. The plant that is a plant within plants, disguised as a plant. Oh, brilliant. Good bants in the chat, people. Sorry to stop Corbyn when he's on a roll there. Literally a plant. Love it.
Country, with the basic rule being grassroots activity, grassroots organisation, and democratic accountability in everything that we do. I do not want to see our party developing the way that traditional political parties have. And believe me, when I say I don't want to see any kind of self-serving bureaucracy running our party, I have experienced what the Labour Party's self-serving bureaucracy is likely to do. I suspect many people in this room have here tonight. We can do things differently, we can do things better. We need to work together.
Say it, Jeremy, say fuck 'em, say fuck Labour. Go on, it'll feel so good.
Respect each other, empower each other, and from that we will be in a position to fundamentally change the way in which politics have done. No more concessions to the far right by centrist parties, because we will be snapping their heels saying, don't you dare concede anything to Farage and the racist claptrap that he's putting out. Yeah. Look what's happened to those parties that have conceded to the right all over Europe. They've lost support. We're not going to be conceding any ground to the right whatsoever, because we believe in people, unity, social justice, and total opposition to any form of racism in any part of our society. Thank you very much.
Well done. 35 minutes of more like it there. I think you'll agree that was awesome stuff from Jeremy Corbyn, the Member of Parliament for Islington North and former leader of the Labour Party. Brackets deceased. That is the party, of course, not Jeremy Corbyn. I'll put a link to the source of that video. Like I said, there were some other vids from the other speakers on this. It's E-Law Resources is the name of the YouTube channel. So a shout out to them again. I'll put that in the description at the end of the stream. Okay, so just staying where London politics is concerned, that was a very impressive appearance from Jeremy Corbyn in Peckham. But how is the overall picture looking for London? We're going to take a look at a poll now, and you do have to say, I do think, before I put this up, I do think that your party will have a big impact in London, but at the moment they certainly have some ground to catch up. Now, hopefully it won't come down to your party or the Greens squabbling over the same seats or whatever. But at the moment the Greens are soaring ahead. I'll just zoom in, just make that a bit bigger. We'll go through this first, because not only record seats in Parliament, record highs in the polls, that'll do. Also looking at gaining 20 seats in London, and look at some of these seats that they're going to be scalping from the government, including Keir Starmer in Holborn and St Pancras, David Lammy in Tottenham, as we recently spoke about, also Diane Abbott and legendary Diane Abbott's seats, Hackney North and Stoke Newington, and also James Murray of Ealing North. I just want to reiterate how the phrase safe seat really doesn't carry any weight anymore in politics, and that's being shown less and less. London especially is one of the areas that Labour could always bank on. Not only are we seeing a change in preference for parties, but also, yeah, the concept of safe seats is completely out for every party at the moment. Let's have a look at some of the seats concerned. Let us know if these are any of yours. I'll just make that a bit bigger. There we go. Have Barking, Brent East, Ealing Central and I feel like a tube driver here. It's the new Green Line, and it will be stopping. Hey! It will be stopping at Barking, Brent East, Ealing Central and Acton, Ealing North, Ealing Southall, Edmonton and Wychmore Hill, Hackney North and Stoke Newington, Hackney South and Shoreditch, Hampstead and Highgate, Harrow West, Holborn and St Pancras, Islington South and Finsbury, Lewisham North, Leighton and Wanstead, Poplar and Limehouse, Southgate and Wood Green, Stratford and Bow, Tottenham, Walthamstow and West Ham and Beckton. Mind the gap. Do I get the job? If you see a Tory on on the tube, text Lefty on. Okay. Let us know if you're in any of those seats I just mentioned there, people. But that's impressive. 20 seats. It looks like they're set to gain in London. They're also a very close second in quite a few others, aren't they? So, as I said, looks as though your party have got some catching up to do where London's concerned. And they currently have about a third of the number of members that the Green Party have. Just announced they passed 50,000 earlier today. That's still good. yeah, I would really love to see Starmer lose his seat. Your party, please stand down in Holborn, St Pancras. Stand down. Stand down. Will he still be Prime Minister by the time of the next election, though? You have to ask yourselves that. Will he try and duck out? And streeting as well, good point there. Idiosyncrasy. With street in Ilford North. That's his constituency. For now. By a very thin thread that's on fire at one end and a shark is chewing the other end. By the looks of things. So what do you make of that map, people? That's Green Elects. Let me know in the chats or in the comments if you're watching back later on. In either case, please do hit thumbs up on the stream or show some support by sharing across your social media even. Super chats are open as well as super thanks. And there's a Buy Me a Coffee page in the description of this stream. Well, across the board, the Greens on the rampage there. I still can't wait to see when your party get into the polling consistently. We've seen a few minor projections here and there when they were first formed. It was first projected that they could actually take Keir Starmer's seat. In fact, we did a video about that. But now it looks as though that could go to the Greens. As long as they work together and don't step on each other's toes, we could see many tens at least of genuine socialists in the House of Commons. How fantastic that would be. And within it, perhaps, potentially, simultaneously with SNP and Plaid Cymru winning in Scotland and Wales respectively as well, that would be something else. Okay, people. I'll be rounding the stream off in a few moments. I was going to say a couple of things, a couple of updates about Gaza. I think Corbyn said a great deal and very well about Gaza, so it's getting a bit late.
Socialists. Oh my God. socialists